You do a little clap. Nice. Alright.
Imagine you are playing Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy. It's your turn, and you figure you should research. You gaze at the large tray of research and technologies, and the nerves start to creep in. What do I research? There are too many options. What if I choose wrong? What if I miss a technology? These are all legitimate thoughts that I have felt playing this amazing game, and I'm sure you've experienced them too. The heart and soul of Eclipse is the research and technology aspect of the game. The ability to completely customize and make your own ships sets this game apart from other space conquest games, such as Eclipse's mean older brother, Twilight Imperium. This aspect can be daunting for new players, and can be even a struggle for experienced players to sort through which technologies are useful and which are not. Hopefully in this video I can cut through some of the fog and mystery revolving research and technologies to help new players or even help players who want to get into the nitty-gritty of Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy. Before we get into the video, a few disclaimers. Firstly, this is not a how to play Eclipse guide or how to research and upgrade. This video requires at least a base knowledge of the game and hopefully a few games already played. Secondly, this is not going to be a cheat sheet video on research and technology. So, with those being said, let's get on to the video. At first glance, there almost appears to be an unlimited pool of technologies in the game. But after breaking them down, there doesn't seem to be as many as first assumed. There are 24 main regular technology tiles, 8 military, 8 grid, 8 nano, 15 rare technologies, and 15 ancient ship parts. And that's it. And most of these research tiles and techs are very similar to one another, or basically do the same things. I'm going to go through each classification of research and technologies and give you my own thoughts on them, point out some specific research tiles in each class, and some tips and situations where they can be best utilized. The breakdown of this video will classify each tech and research into these classifications: starter tech, ship upgrades, resource/economy upgrades, building upgrades, passive/instant upgrades, and ancient ship parts. There obviously is some overlap in some of these classifications, but this was the easiest way I could coherently break them all down. So let's get started with some starter tech. Starter tech, I believe, is the most underutilized and overlooked tech in the game. If you were unaware, you actually start out with some technology that you can upgrade your ships with immediately at the start of the game. Most alien species start out with these techs already on their ships, but this does not make these techs useless. The starter techs are hull, nuclear drive, nuclear source, electron computer, and ion cannon. Using starter tech does a few things. You first have to realize that researching tech is an expensive turn. Not only do you use an action, but you also have to spend a resource to gain a research tile. And if you are researching a ship upgrade, you also have to waste another action to add this upgrade to your ships. You can spare these actions later on in the game when you have built up your economies, but early on, starter techs work in your favor. If you watched our last video, you'll remember that winning your first combat is super important, and that your first combat will 99% of the time be against the NPCs called Ancients. Using an action or two on the first or second round to upgrade your ships with starter tech can be a way to make sure you win those battles without having to wait too long or invest a lot of research early when resources are the most scarce. When you're playing your next game of Eclipse, don't forget about starter tech. It could allow you to save up your research for first dibs on a juicy tech while still allowing you to win your first combats. One disclaimer I will add is I would not advise you to overuse these starter techs. Don't deck out every ship with starter tech early to only have to replace it later on when everyone else gets better ship parts. These are wasted actions. Like anything, use in moderation. And if there's a specific research tile you're looking for that pops up early, don't be afraid to grab it. The second classification for research tiles are ship upgrades. Ship upgrades are the most common type of research tile, with 12 common and 7 rare research tiles. To better understand these, I have further broken them down into energy, cannons, computers, shield, hull, missiles, and drives. Do you need all these things to be successful? No. Remember, each ship only has a limiting amount of slots to place upgrades. So let's start with energy. Energy is how you will be able to beef up your ships to crush your enemy. Most games, you are going to want at least one energy upgrade researched to be able to upgrade your ships and remain ahead of the game. There are 4 possible energy upgrades to research for your ships, discounting starter tech and ancient ship parts. The common research tiles, fusion source and tachyon source, and the rare technologies, 0-point source and absorption shield. In 85% of my games, researching fusion source has been sufficient to energize my ships throughout the whole game. Maybe with an ancient ship part or 2 to help boost your ship's energy, fusion source will be more than enough. Something to note that I have found while customizing my ships is that the more powerful, energy-using upgrades are not usually the best upgrades to put on your ships. They tend to be too expensive to be worth the cost and actions. Therefore, 0-point energy is, in my opinion, one of the worst techs to research in the game. Cannons are next. This includes plasma cannon, soliton cannon, antimatter cannon, a quick synopsis. Soliton cannon is the best in my opinion, followed closely by plasma, then rift, then antimatter. Don't get me wrong, rolling the red die are a satisfying way to battle. It gives you a fear factor. But other than that, it is almost a waste. The research required to research the tech and the energy it consumes are not an even trade-off. If there are other cannons available, equipping your ships with them is sure to give you better odds at winning. But equipping your ships with only cannons will win you few, if any, battles. Cannons alone are not very strong, as odds of rolling a hit are 1 in 6. This brings us to our next section, computers. Computers are my favorite tech to upgrade my ship with, especially when paired with initiative. Computers take your odds of scoring a hit and doubles, triples, or even quadruples those odds on every single roll. Positron computer is another must-have tech for me in my playstyle, as I like to play with as much aggression as is reasonably allowed. If you are able to put 1 or 2 computers on your ships, they will be an imposing force against any opponent. Some people believe that cannons are a direct counter to hull. In my opinion, it is computers. Sentient hull is another tech that is definitely worth picking up if drawn, which gives you hull and computers. My favorite line when playing Eclipse is, "I hit on anything but a miss," which is a blank. Computers are a dangerous drug, however, because they can easily be countered with shields. This reminds us to always be looking at your opponent's blueprints to try and counter their ships directly. Next we have shields. I have never been a huge fan of shields, because they are really only good if your opponent has computers. I do feel obligated to mention them in this video, however, because we are going through all the techs. Shields are They can save your butt in certain circumstances, but they do take up a whole square. They normally are only effective when paired together, meaning having multiple shields can be helpful. The only one I would consider purposefully pursuing would be Absorption Shield, because of the energy output. Next is hull. Many people say that improved hull is the best tech in the game. I will admit, the fact that an improved hull doesn't take any energy is a real advantage. Improved hull is one of the best techs, but I wouldn't say the best. Hull can help you survive multiple hits, which you will most likely need if you want to win. However, hull with weak cannons or no computers is not a good formula to win battles. It is a formula for slow death. In Eclipse, outlasting opponents can be tough, especially when your opponent gets 3 or 4 hits per round when you only get 1 or 2. Hull does directly counter missiles, however, which is the tech we are talking about next. Missiles can be a really powerful tool to fire before your opponents even get a chance to fire back. Paired with computers, this could mean disaster for many ship fleets that are ill prepared. These only fire once, so make sure you have other cannons. Or, as a strategy I have used on many occasions, load up your interceptors with missiles to have a barrage early, and heavier cannons on your cruisers and dreadnoughts to finish off whoever survived. Missiles can be used as a way to have fun combats and intense rolls. The best missiles are included as ancient ship parts, but if you're gonna go for the missile route, you have to go all in. Last of the ship upgrades, we have drives. For many of my first games, I overlooked drives and viewed them as a way to just get around faster, but I was ignoring a powerful tool. A tool that took learning the hard way to figure out. I was overlooking one of the most important parts of combat: initiative. Unlike other space conquest games like TI, Eclipse is a turn-based combat system. This means that whoever has the ship that fires first has a massive advantage. Pairing initiative with computers and cannons is the proven best strategy to winning combats quick and decisively. Fusion drive is the best drive I have found in creating initiative. Ancient ship parts are also another great way to get the initiative advantage. In review for your ships, here are the ship upgrades I always look for and would recommend. Again, this is all opinionated off of my own playstyle. The techs are improved hull, fusion source, positron computers, soliton cannon/plasma cannons, and fusion drive. I would advise everyone to figure out their own playstyle and find out which techs work best for you and your ships. Next is resource and economy upgrades. In this classification, I have included advanced mining, advanced labs, advanced economy, metasynthesis, advanced robotics, quantum grid, and artifact key. These are all technologies that give you advantages in the resource allocation part of the game. Advanced mining, advanced labs, and advanced economy allow you to expand your respective economies to further allow you to sustain your empire. Which one helps out the most? Well, that depends on how the game is going for you and the faction you have chosen. I will point out that having more material tends to help players out more if you can grab the orbital tech. You will always need money, so advanced economy is the most sought after of the three. What I prefer over all of them is actually metasynthesis. This tech is often disregarded as too expensive and not worth it. But in my experience, it is totally worth it. As it is a rare technology, you can place it in any research track you choose, making the price fall down significantly, even as cheap as 11 research. Saving up for this tech if it pops up early always gives you an advantage over your opponents as they struggle to maintain their economies, while you can comfortably send out your colony ships and population cubes on whatever square you would like. Advanced robotics and quantum grid allow you to take more actions than other players, and makes your turns significantly cheaper. I don't use them in most games, but for certain factions, they are a must. If you are playing as the Iridani Empire, these are definitely tech to look out for, as you start out with 2 less influence discs. I usually end up grabbing them late game because of how expensive turns can become, and to fill research trees, but they are by no means necessary. Finally, in this class, we have Artifact Key. This is, in my opinion, one of the most unique research tiles you can grab. Artifact Key allows you to get an instant boost in resources that can mean the difference between winning and losing. To maximize this tech, you would think you would research this as late as possible, as you can have the most time to take as many artifact planets. Not necessarily. This is definitely not an early game tech, but I would consider using it late game also almost a waste of time, unless you had a specific plan in mind. I like to use Artifact Key in the mid game. Early game, you don't have many artifact planets, and late game, resources don't matter as much as they previously did. They can still be a big deal, and mathing out your turns is necessary, but resources mid game can allow you to set up for a late game push. It can be a big advantage, but only in certain games. this wouldn't be a tech I would be seeking out every single game. Next, we have building upgrades. The research tiles I've included in this one are starbases, monoliths, and orbitals. These are of course techs that allow you to build structures in the game. I think it goes without saying that starbases and orbitals are almost a must-have in any game. With how cheap they are, they allow you to build your tech trees and give you the ability to expand your defenses with starbases and help your research and money economies with that extra boost. Monoliths are a different story, however. In order to be successful in a monolith play, you have to strategize rounds in advance. I have been through multiple games where monoliths have decided the winner on the last round. Two strategies I have seen with monoliths are 1. Saving your materials and isolating yourself in order to build monoliths and protect them in the last few rounds. 2. Running around the board placing monoliths all around. This second strategy may seem dumb, but it brings a few interesting aspects. Placing monoliths everywhere makes certain tiles that much more sought after, causing battles and a struggle for those tiles. While those struggles are going on, the player that placed them all can begin taking other players' tiles and slowly growing their economies and empire until the end of the game, where they can sometimes snag a surprising win. Either way, monoliths are an investment, and thus these strategies take planning. Passive/instant upgrades. These include the rest of the techs that give you either an upgrade that improves your actions for the rest of the game, or techs that give you an instant action to perform. The passive upgrades are antimatter cannon, improved logistics, cloaking device, pico modulator, neutron bombs, neutron absorbers, nanorobots, and wormhole generator. The instant upgrades are the rare techs, warp portal, and ancient labs. I'll say one brief thing about each of them. Quick fire round. Let's go. Antimatter cannon? For me, worthless. I always roll too many dice anyway with smaller cannons. Improved logistics? Helpful in certain scenarios if you need to move a larger fleet. Cloaking device? Awesome if you want to make up some juicy plans, otherwise can be dispensable. Pico modulator. Only worth it if you spend 8 research and still not that good. Just make money so you can have unlimited actions, bro. Neutron bombs. An absolute must-have in every single game. Neutron absorbers. One of my favorite techs. I would pick it up if you have the chance. You can annoy a lot of people with that tech. Another must grab. Nanorobots. Good once in a while. Not really. Wormhole generator. Oh buddy, this one can get spicy. Use it to absolutely destroy your scared friend who walled himself off. Warp portal. Only good if you are stuck or need to get to one specific area of the map. Ancient labs. Bro, come on. Just fight some ancients. Almost never worth it. And with that, we have gone over every single research tile in the game. But I can't end this video without talking about the important ancient ship parts. There are 15 ancient ship parts that you can find through discovery tiles. If you find an ancient ship part, especially early game, I would highly consider keeping it. They can be what you build your ships off of the rest of the game. After writing the script, I've decided to make a separate video just on discovery tiles and ancient ship parts, but I will give you one preview. Ion missiles plus interceptors plus computers equals absolute destruction and a great time. I will also briefly mention tech trees. If you do not purposefully pursue 1 or 2 tech trees, you are missing out on a lot of victory points at the end of the game. Keep an eye on which tree you can extend the furthest, and don't be afraid to research a tech in that category just for the sake of extending that tree. So after all that, hopefully you have at least a base knowledge of most of the technologies in the game. Obviously, I can't go into every single minute detail of every single technology, or we would be here a while. But hopefully I've given you a base knowledge so that you can go out, play your own games, and create your own play style that helps you have fun in Eclipse. One more thing that I will say is that it is physically impossible to research every technology in one single game of Eclipse. So don't try. Pick a few technologies that go well with your playstyle and pair well together, and go after them. Lastly, I will say this. Eclipse is a reaction and adaptation game. Watch what your opponents are researching, upgrading, and doing, and stay one step ahead. And that's our video on Eclipse. Thank you guys so much for watching, and subscribe if you want to see more Eclipse content. Until next week, see ya.